Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Bracket Buster podcast. And today we're going to start our off-season reviews. So we're going to cover roster changes, we're going to cover preseason expectations, who they've lost in the portal, who they gained in the portal, any incoming freshmen that could be of impact. And then we're just going to set that off our opinion, preseason expectations. And I want to make sure that's reiterated as this is our opinion. This is by no means, professionally graded by any means whatsoever. We're going to actually start off at Illinois State. So I'd ask y'all on X or Twitter. I'm going to still call it Twitter, even though they changed the URL thing recently. I'm still going to call it Twitter. So I asked y'all on Twitter recently, and I got some feedback about Illinois State. So we're probably going to cover Illinois State here first, and then we're going to dive into some other Missouri Valley schools, as well as maybe some schools from the A10 and other mid-major conferences. So last Wednesday, Illinois State filled their last roster spot with the transfer coming out of Ole Miss. Redbirds finished last season 15-17, which was good for 7th in the Missouri Valley. This is Redbirds' team that showed a lot of success at times. However, they just never maintained that rate going through the entire season. They went on some stretches. They started off 2-0 in the Missouri Valley, and then they went 5-1 in a 6-game stretch before they turned around and dropped 6 straight. And then they actually went on a stretch at the end of the season going 4-1, which, if you all remember, that was also included a win over number 23 Indiana State at the time. So this is a team that flashed a lot of potential. They just never were able to harness that in enough to sustain success throughout the entire season. So just starting off with the roster overview, let's look at who they've added to the roster through the transfer portal. In particular, they've added Cameron Barnes, who was the last person to fill their spot that I mentioned previously. He is a freshman, redshirt freshman coming out of Ole Miss. They added Caden Bozer out of Valdosta State. That is a Division II school. However, this guy was very highly sought after, and I'll talk a little bit more about him as well, because sometimes you don't ever know what you're getting out of these D3, NAIA, or D2 schools, but he was very highly sought after by D1 schools. Actually, he previously had spent some time at a Division I school. Last season, he averaged 12.6 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2 assists per game. They also picked up an in-conference transfer, Landon Wolf, out of UNI. He averaged 4.7 points, 1.3 rebounds, 0.5 assists per game, and he's coming in out of his sophomore season. Then they also added arguably their best pickup, which was Bowden Skunkberg, coming out of North Dakota State. He averaged 14.1 points, 5.4 rebounds, 2.1 assists per game. He provides a lot of experience. It's going to be his last season of eligibility coming in as a senior. So a lot of great things looking out from the transfer portal here for the Redbirds. The following players that are going to return next season, I'm just going to kind of just run through these real quick. They had Johnny Kingsiger, who's their freshman, who I'm going to talk a lot about later. 8.7 points, 2.4 rebounds, 1.8 assists per game. They had Jordan Davis come in at 3.5 points, 2.7 rebounds, 0.6 assists. Dalton Banks, 8.5 points, 2.4 rebounds, 1.8 assists. Malachi Poindexter, 8.6 points, 2.4 rebounds, 1.6 assists. Ty Pence at 0.8 points, 0.7 rebounds, 0.3 assists per game. Chase Walker, 3.2 points, 2.1 rebounds, 0.4 assists, and Brandon Lieb coming in at 3.2 points, 3.8 rebounds, 0.5 assists. So they've got a lot of returning talent coming back. A lot of these guys on paper, if you look at their stats, really weren't necessarily like high-scoring guys. Again, I'm like kind of, looking into the future a little bit here. We're going to talk a lot about Johnny Kingsiger because he is going to be a key piece to the Redbirds team next season. Having him come back after what he did as a freshman, a true freshman at that, really phenomenal, and a lot of upside here for the Redbirds. They did lose a few pieces in the portal. Arguably, they lost their two best players from last season. They lost Miles Foster. He averaged 12.4 points, 8.1 rebounds, 1.7 assists per game. They also lost Darius Burford at 12.8 points, 2.4 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 1 steal per game. Lost a couple other guys who were more role pieces. They lost Luke Kasuki. I'm going to go with that. I don't actually know how that was pronounced, but he transferred to North Dakota State. He came in at 4 points, 1.6 rebounds, 0.6 assists per game. And they also lost Haruna Sissoko. Going to go with that. At 1 point and 1 rebound per game, he only appeared in 9 games. So their main two pieces here they lost were some of their top performers last season, Miles Foster and Darius Burford. But again, they kind of re-added back to that when you look at some of their portal additions. They did also lose Kendall Lewis. He averaged 8.5 points, 6.6 rebounds, and 1 assist per game. And Ryan Schmidt, who averaged 2.4 points, 0.4 rebounds, and 0.2 assists per game. He only appeared in 5 games, so again, not a huge role piece here, but they lost both of them due to running out of remaining eligibility. So, on the surface, it looks pretty bad. You look and you see that you're losing Miles Foster and Burford. But I don't think either of these are really a big shock to fans. Usually, how this is going right now, especially in conferences like Missouri Valley, if you are a top tier or an above average player, you're probably going to transfer to a different school. So really, Miles Foster has not yet to name what school he will be transferring to, but I know I recently saw that he was going on a visit to Clemson, and I think maybe Auburn, or one of those two at least. And he's going to go to a Power 5 school. There's no doubt about that. The dude's super, uber talented. That is a tough loss. He was named to the MVC All Newcomer team. And Burford is he's a big loss too here. He was an excellent scorer. He shot 43% from the floor. Wasn't really a three-point specialist. Didn't actually take a lot of threes. He shot a very disappointing 20.9% from beyond the arc. Again, he wasn't a great three-point shooter, but he could score. He was like the type of guy that when you're watching Illinois State, he can create a bucket for himself. Again, a very above average talent there in terms of the offensive end. However, in my opinion, their additions can make up for these losses. So Keaton Bowser shot 48.3% overall, 40.5% from beyond the arc at Valdosta State. The year prior, he shot 49.3% from the floor and 42.6% from the three. So this is just a certified bucket getter right now. He's an elite scorer. He's looked at some other great mid-majors as well. That's what I was hinting at earlier. He was getting looked at like Belmont and Eastern Kentucky and UC San Diego. So it was a lot of mid-major schools that we're looking at, not really necessarily power schools. But like you think about Belmont. Belmont has always just been completely constructed around scoring. It's always been offense first. That's been the go-to for everything. So when you're getting looked at schools like Belmont, you're a pretty good player. Bowser actually came from UMKC, University of Missouri, Kansas City. He played his first 2 seasons there, transferred to Valdosta State, and he's coming in back to the Division I ranks here for Illinois State. So I'm excited to see him and compete in the Missouri Valley next season. I think he's going to be a huge lift for the Redbirds. Bodden Skungberg, he is just going to be the best player next year, in my opinion. I think it's going to be a toss-up between him and Kingsinger. But he came from North Dakota State over the last 2 seasons. Last season, his numbers dipped a little bit. He shot 40.8% from the floor, 34% from three. However, I'm willing to look past that because his year before was just insane. And you're talking about with somebody else as talented as Grant Nelson, who went off for Alabama, was one of their star players this season in the tournament runs and the entire season altogether. He averaged 45.3% from the floor, 39.5% from three. This past season, he led the Bisons in points and rebounds per game. And then again, in the season prior, he had Grant Nelson on the team. So that was their go-to. That was the main guy that was doing all the scoring. And he still was able to average that, high caliber statistics, even with a Power 5 conference star on their team who then would later transfer. Now, of course, given Grant Nelson's going to get a lot of the attention on that team, so that could free up more opportunities for somebody like Skungberg to score and produce like that. So that's probably why his numbers dipped a little bit, because you don't have that star player in front of you that can open up opportunities for yourself. However, on Illinois State, because they do have a number of pieces, I think that he's going to be a huge addition for them. Obviously, I think just looking at statistics overall, it's going to be a huge addition. But then you look at his skill overall, he's going to fit into that team very well. Landon Wolf appeared in 30 games off the bench last season for UNI. Did not disappoint. He shot 48.5% from the floor, 45.3% from three. His minutes did dip from his freshman year. He averaged 7.4 points, 1.6 rebounds. He averaged 24 minutes per game that season, and then this past season, he didn't average nearly as much, and he averaged about 13 minutes per game. So coming out of high school, he had a lot of offers. He had UNI, Toledo, Milwaukee, South Dakota, Western Illinois, Bryant, Quincy, and Truman State. So some pretty above average mid majors, but about at that level of the Missouri Valley. So he has experience in the Valley already, which is crucial. And then again, those shooting percentages, phenomenal. He's going to be a really good piece coming off the bench for the Redbirds next season. Cameron Barnes is a little bit of a flyer pickup here. He hasn't played in a collegiate game because he redshirted at Ole Miss, but he came in as a 3-star recruit. He's a 25th best player in Texas, 169th overall to the 2023 class. He's 6'10". He held offers from some phenomenal schools, so you got to know this guy's got some serious talent potential. He had offers from Memphis and Texas A&M, SMU, Baylor, Wichita State, Oklahoma State, and Ole Miss. So he's highly sought after. I think he's going to be a nice piece coming off the bench for the Redbirds. I mean, you know how that goes. Sometimes you go to a power conference, you sit, so you're going to transfer out. In this case, he redshirted last season. However, all that potential with these other schools that are looking at him makes me think that, like, I watched some tape on him too. I think he's going to be pretty solid. It's just you never really know what you're getting out of these guys whenever they're coming in with no collegiate experience whatsoever. However, you got to think that coming down to the Missouri Valley, it's going to kind of be like a Malik Dia for Belmont last year deal, where Malik Dia sat on the bench his freshman year at Vandy, came down to Belmont, just dominated. That might not be the exact same case here. However, I do think that, like, obviously that talent is there. So if the Redbirds can help Barnes unlock that potential, he's going to be a key contributor for this team as well. They also have two freshmen coming in I didn't mention earlier, had Jack Daugherty and Cade Norris. Yeah, another Norris in the Missouri Valley, because you can probably guess who that is. That is Braden Norris's younger brother. If you remember, Norris was like a 8-year senior, not really, but an 8-year senior at Loyola Chicago, dominated a lot of teams in the Missouri Valley, was a great player overall. So he is actually returning. I think he's coming as a little bit of an under-the-radar pickup. He wasn't like super highly sought after in recruiting ranks. He had offers from Lipscomb, Winthrop, Ball State, Wright State, and Illinois State. Those are all great mid-majors, though. You're talking about kind of that mid-tier to high-tier mid-majors coming in. So that talent is there as well. That might be a little bit of a flyer pick, but I think it's super under the radar. He could probably provide some really great minutes coming off the bench. Jack Daugherty, definitely the more known recruit, in terms of like high school recruiting. He's 3-star. He's third best recruit out of Wisconsin. He had an absolute load of top tier mid major offers. He had offers from Richmond, Toledo, St. Thomas, Indiana State, Southern Illinois, and more. Obviously, Illinois State. I mean, he had a ton of offers coming in. I'm talking a little bit about how I think he can contribute to this team here in a little bit. So let's talk about preseason expectations for a successful season this coming year. With the turnover in the Missouri Valley, the conference is kind of wide open. I think there's going to be team opportunities for teams like Illinois State and Evansville and other schools who maybe have been a little bit down the last few years, but have shown to start turning it around again. I think it's going to be wide open enough to where Illinois State can try to come in and stake a claim for themselves in here. They haven't finished with 20-plus wins since 2017, haven't had a winning season since 2019. However, I think they're going to break this streak this season. Personally, for myself, I'm putting a lot of stock into two players. I'm putting stock into Johnny Kingsiger and Bowden Skungberg. Skungberg provides a veteran presence on the team. His game's going to transfer really well to the Missouri Valley, in my opinion. He's 6'5", so he's going to be a great option at that shooting guard / small forward position that can most likely lead the team in offensive production overall. Actually, if I had to put money down right now, I would say he's going to be the best player next season. Absolutely no doubt. However, I think Kingsiger's going to also be the go-to guy. He's a freshman, and let me just talk for a minute here about what he did at the end of the season, because it was absolutely insane. His last 7 games of the season, he averaged 17.1 points, 3.1 assists, and 3.8 rebounds per game as a true freshman in what was last year the 10th/9th best conference in all of mid-majors. Or in all of the United States, I should say. So one of the best mid-major conferences, this guy was just absolutely going off as a freshman. He's a little bit undersized, but that he makes up for that in everything that he does. He's 5'11", but he's an excellent option at the point guard position. In those last 7 games, he only averaged 2.1 turnovers per game. So he's a ball handler. He's going to be a real key piece for the Redbirds next season. I think if he can take that next step forward, let's say average 12, 13 points per game to go with Skemberg, the Redbirds are going to be dangerous in the Missouri Valley. I think the largest question, in my opinion, is going to be the front court. They're pretty thin here. Caden Bozer provides a little bit of size at 6'8". He'll probably fit more into that power forward position. Brandon Lee comes in at 7 foot. However, he literally just hit a career high last season in minutes. That was 11 per game in 17 games. Chase Walker, 6'9". He appeared in just 17 games as well at 7.6 minutes per game. And then 3-star Jack Daugherty does come in as a 6'7" as a freshman. So he could provide some minutes, in one of those forward spots. Probably depending on the matchup here, but that's literally about it. They really don't have a lot of experience in the front court, so I'm a little bit concerned about them getting ate up by other schools who, probably have some big guys at the 5 spot, because really, Lieb could be a center, obviously at 7 foot, but I think the jury would still be out about what he could actually contribute on the court and for how long. When you're sitting at a career high at just 11 minutes per game last season, and then all of a sudden you're going to be potentially the starting center. Again, Don't know how they're going to actually set up their starting lineup here, but I think you would argue that like he's at least going to probably have 20 to 25 minutes per game coming in because he's the tallest guy on the team, and you need a center. So, we'll just wait and see. And who knows? Maybe some of these guys will shock me and shock other people, but I do think that's going to be the primary concern going into next season. I think between the offensive options of Jordan Davis, Dalton Banks, Poindexter, Kingsinger, Skungberg, and Wolf, I think it's going to be a tough matchup for other schools in Missouri Valley. I'm not even questioning their guard play. This is going to be a team that scored just a load of points, in my opinion. I think they're going to look a little bit like Indiana State did last year. I need to say hit Avila, so that was totally different. Illinois State does not have a guy like that with that level of height. However, I think they're going to score a ton of points. Their offense is not going to be the problem. They got a lot of weapons that's going to be coming in, and it's going to be able to step up for that. I think each game's going to end up being a shootout, honestly, at the end of the day. I think that from their guard play, they're going to be able to propel them to a winning season. I don't know how many games they're going to lose because they are just going to get ate up in the paint, probably. However, I do think they can actually probably finish top half in the Missouri Valley. Personally, I'm projecting them with an 18 to 20 win season, and I think that's good enough to get maybe like a 6th place spot in the Missouri Valley. I do think that because the rest of the Valley's down, with all the coaching changes, we really don't know what we're going to get out of a lot of these teams. Indiana State obviously has been decimated. Southern Illinois has a brand new coach, Scott Nagy from Wright State. UIC's going under change. Valpo, respectfully. So there's like a lot of schools. I think, again, you're going to see schools like Evansville and Illinois State try to take a little bit of those spots because they're down, because I think both of those coaches are doing a great job rebuilding those programs. So I think that they're going to be able to like help elevate them to a little bit of a higher tier next year. And I think personally, Illinois State and Evansville are both like really crushing it in the portal. And I think like Illinois State's assembling what is going to be an offensive juggernaut in that conference. And it's just a question of like, can they just hold offenses from other teams' offenses from scoring 80 points a game on them, because they're not going to win doing that. So if they can do that and then come in, if they can really hold on to what is going to be their core value of just scoring just a ton of points, I think they're going to be totally fine. I think they're going to get a winning season. I think Redbird fans are going to be satisfied. And what that's going to do is that's going to continue the domino effect. So you're going from not having a winning season for several years in a row to now, let's say you win next season. Let's say you go 18, you win 18, 19, 20 games next season. That's momentum. And in this day and age, that's what you need to build programs, because if you can show recruits, from the power conferences transferring down, or from the lower ranks of low power conferences, you pull them up into the mid-major ranks in the top tier. Missouri Valley is one of the best conferences all around, and there's going to be a lot of turnover. Missouri State's leaving and all this other stuff's happening. So I think there's an opportunity for schools that are keeping that momentum going forward to continue to build off of that. And I think Illinois State's in a great position to do that. So I'm excited to watch the Redbirds next season. Obviously, I'm a diehard Missouri Valley fan, so I think they're going to do a great job overall here, and I'm excited to see what the Redbirds do. What's going on, guys? I just also want to plug here that we are running a promotion through Bracket Busters. So if you actually go down into the link below into our Substack, you'll see on all of our articles that we actually post that if you use the code Bracket Busters, as with both B's capitalized, when checking out at Crow's Nest Coffee Roasters online, which the link will also be down below, you will receive 10% off your order. Also, highly recommend overall that you go to our Substack and subscribe to our newsletters. They are our primary source of how you get information from us. We are starting to explore a little bit more into the video space here on YouTube and other channels. And I recommend that you go to Substack. That's always going to be the first place that we post our new media. So if you're a fan of college basketball, if you're a fan of mid-majors, go to Substack, check us out, give us a subscribe button. I would super appreciate it. Thank you all.